The sound of her desperate knocking echoes through my apartment at 3 a.m. Through the peephole, I see my sister Sarah, the same person who left me for dead on the Appalachian Trail 2 years ago, mascara running down her face as she sobs uncontrollably. The irony isn't lost on me. The last time I saw her, she was smiling as she watched me tumble down that rocky slope. Now, she needs my help. But what she doesn't know is that I've been waiting for this moment. I stood at the edge of the Appalachian Trail, the crisp mountain air filling my lungs as I took in the breathtaking view. This was supposed to be a fresh start, a chance to mend my fractured relationship with my sister Sarah. For as long as I could remember, the two of us had been inseparable, two sides of the same coin, navigating the ups and downs of life together. But that was before everything changed. 2 years ago, during what was meant to be a bonding trip, Sarah had smiled as she kicked me off the trail. I plummeted down a rocky slope, my cries for help swallowed by the dense forest. The betrayal cut deeper than the bruises on my body. It shattered the trust that had held our sisterhood together. I survived that fall, but the scars, both physical and emotional, remained. In the months that followed, I rebuilt my life in New York City. I poured myself into my work as an environmental lawyer, dedicated to protecting the very forests that had once been my sanctuary. But the memories of Sarah's laughter, twisted into something sinister, haunted me. I had to confront her. I needed closure, and maybe even revenge. So, when Sarah reached out to me after 2 years of silence, asking for a hiking trip to reconnect, I hesitated. Could I trust her? My instincts screamed to stay away, but a part of me longed to believe that she had changed. I agreed, and we met at the trailhead, both of us donning the same hiking gear we had worn on our childhood adventures. As we hiked, the conversation was stilted, punctuated by forced laughter and awkward silences. I could see the nervousness in her eyes, the way she avoided certain topics. The deeper we ventured into the forest, the more I could sense something was off. I kept a watchful eye on her, memories of that fateful day replaying in my mind. On the third day, we reached a particularly treacherous part of the trail. The rocks were slick with rain, and a sense of foreboding hung in the air. I felt a chill run down my spine as we navigated the narrow path. That's when it happened. Sarah stumbled, her foot slipping on a loose rock. I instinctively reached for her, but she twisted away, and in that split second, I lost my balance. I fell, tumbling down the slope once more, but this time I was ready. I braced for impact, and although I landed hard, I managed to grab onto a tree branch that jutted out from the side of the cliff. My heart raced as I clung to it, staring up at Sarah, who had regained her footing. Instead of reaching for me, she stepped back, a cruel smile spreading across her face. "I guess you just weren't cut out for this after all, Em," she said, her voice dripping with malice. My heart sank as I realized this was no accident. It was a deliberate act of betrayal. With all my strength, I pulled myself up, adrenaline coursing through my veins. "You won't get away with this," I screamed, rage bubbling inside me. But as I climbed back up the slope, Sarah had already turned and fled into the woods, leaving me alone to piece together what had just happened. I spent the next few days in a daze, nursing my injuries and trying to comprehend the gravity of her betrayal. I returned to New York, vowing to expose her for who she truly was. With my legal skills, I began to investigate her life, uncovering her gambling debts and the dark web of lies she had spun to cover her tracks. Months later, my phone rang in the middle of the night. It was Sarah, her voice trembling as she begged for help. "Please, I need you. I'm in trouble," she cried. I felt a mix of emotions, fear, anger, and a sick sense of satisfaction. The sister who had left me for dead was now at my front door, desperate and vulnerable. As I opened the door, I couldn't help but feel the weight of our shared history pressing down on me. Her mascara was running, and for a moment, I felt a flicker of sympathy. But then I remembered the betrayal, and the years of pain she had caused me. "Why should I help you?" I asked, my voice steady as I stepped aside to let her in. "You left me to die." Her sobs filled the room as she collapsed onto the floor. "I'm sorry. I was scared. I didn't mean to hurt you. I watched her cry, my heart a battle between vengeance and compassion. This was my moment to reclaim my power, to decide what kind of sister I wanted to be. I could help her, but I could also make her understand the consequences of her actions. Then let's talk, I said, closing the door behind me. The trail of betrayal had led us here, and now it was time for the truth to unfold. The city skyline glimmered against the evening sky as I stood on the balcony of my penthouse apartment, the cacophony of Manhattan buzzing below me. I had built a life here, a successful career on Wall Street as an investment banker, and everything seemed perfect. Yet, deep down, my heart felt heavy, burdened by the impending reunion with my sister, Madison. Madison had always been the artistic soul of our family, but her talent was overshadowed by her relentless need to compete with me. Growing up, we were like fire and ice. Her fiery passion for art clashed with my cold, calculated ambition. But as our mother's health began to decline, it became evident that we needed to come together. The looming specter of our mother's terminal illness had forced Madison back into my life, and now we were both faced with the reality of our fractured relationship. The day of our mother's memorial arrived, and as I entered the small, sunlit chapel, I spotted Madison across the room. She looked beautiful in a flowing black dress, her hair cascading in waves, but there was a flicker of something in her eyes. Jealousy, perhaps? I couldn't tell. I approached her cautiously, my heart pounding, but she greeted me with a tight smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Nice to see you," she said, her voice dripping with sarcasm. "I assume you're still too busy with your big-shot job to care about family?" I forced a smile, trying to diffuse the tension. "Madison, this isn't the time. We're here for Mom." As the service progressed, I felt the weight of our unspoken resentments pressing down on me. I had always felt like the responsible one, the one who took care of everything. Meanwhile, Madison had floundered, struggling to make a name for herself in the art world. But instead of confronting those feelings, we both retreated into our corners, avoiding the real issue at hand. After the memorial, we returned to my apartment to discuss our mother's will. I had always assumed I would inherit her art collection, a treasure trove of family history. But when I opened the document, my heart sank. Instead of the expected bequest, I found a clause that favored Madison, leaving her the bulk of our mother's estate. "What is this?" I demanded, my voice shaking with disbelief. "Why would she leave you everything?" Madison stood there, a self-satisfied smile creeping onto her lips. "I think Mom appreciated my talent more than yours. Maybe she recognized that I have the ability to carry on her legacy." Fury surged through me. I had sacrificed so much for our family, and now it felt like I was being robbed of what was rightfully mine. I confronted Madison, questioning her loyalty and the choices she had made over the years. Her response was a mixture of defensiveness and arrogance, and before we knew it, we were shouting at each other. "You think you're better than me just because you wear a suit and carry a briefcase?" She spat. "I'm the one with the passion. I'm the one who creates." "Creating isn't enough, Madison. You have to be practical, too. You've wasted so much time." Our argument escalated, and in a moment of pure rage, I stormed out, leaving her standing there, a triumphant glimmer in her eyes. I couldn't shake the feeling that this wasn't over. I needed to make her understand the consequences of her actions. Days passed, and Madison's behavior became increasingly erratic. I started receiving anonymous tips about her dealings in the art world, rumors of forged pieces and shady transactions. She had always skirted the line, but now I realized she was crossing it. Driven by a mix of concern and indignation, I began to dig deeper into her life. I discovered evidence of her involvement in a criminal scheme, selling counterfeit art under the guise of authenticity. My heart raced as I realized this could be the key to exposing her, but I wrestled with the ethical implications. Was this the sisterly love I had always wanted to preserve? One evening, as I was reviewing the evidence in my office, my phone buzzed with a message from Madison. "I need to talk. It's urgent." I hesitated, but ultimately agreed to meet her at a cafe in Brooklyn. As I arrived, I found her sitting alone, eyes red and puffy. I messed up, Alex, she said, her voice barely above a whisper. I got involved with some dangerous people. They're threatening me. The vulnerability in her tone caught me off guard. The sister who had always prided herself on her independence was now broken and desperate. For a moment, I felt a flicker of compassion, but I quickly reminded myself of her betrayal. Why should I help you? I asked, my voice steady. You've made your choices. No. Her eyes filled with tears and she reached for my hand. Please, I'll do anything. I just need a chance to make it right. As I looked into her eyes, I realized that the path forward didn't have to be about revenge. Instead, it could be about redemption. Maybe this was our chance to rebuild, to finally break free from the chains of jealousy and rivalry that had defined us for so long. The choice was mine, and as I took a deep breath, I knew what I had to do. It was late in the evening when the call came. A frantic, desperate voice on the other end of the line, one I hadn't heard in months. It was my sister, Lauren, and she was crying. Rachel, please, she begged. I need your help. I've made a mistake. I sat there in my small apartment in New York City, gripping the phone tightly. Lauren and I hadn't spoken in nearly a year. Our relationship had always been complicated, but after everything that happened, I thought I'd never hear from her again. The betrayal still burned, and her voice dredged up memories I had been trying to bury. Lauren and I had grown up in the shadow of our father, a renowned surgeon with a sterling reputation. From a young age, we were expected to follow in his footsteps. I took to medicine naturally, becoming a trauma surgeon in one of Manhattan's busiest hospitals. Lauren, on the other hand, struggled. She dropped out of medical school after just 2 years, claiming it wasn't her calling. I supported her decision at the time, even defended her against our father's harsh criticism. But as the years passed, Lauren's life spiraled out of control. She developed a drug addiction, fell into a toxic crowd, and began cutting ties with the family. When she came back into my life last year, she seemed different. Clean, sober, and determined to make amends. Our father had passed away by then, leaving behind not only his legacy but also his lucrative private practice. To my surprise, Lauren expressed genuine interest in helping to manage it. She said it was her way of honoring his memory, and I wanted to believe her. Against my better judgment, I agreed to partner with her, thinking maybe this was her chance to turn her life around. At first, things seemed to go well. We split responsibilities, me handling surgeries and patient care, while Lauren took over administrative duties. For a while, I thought we were finally repairing our bond. We even planned a weekend hiking trip upstate, something we hadn't done since we were kids. It felt like old times, laughing and reminiscing on the trail as the autumn leaves crunched beneath our boots. But on the second day of the trip, something changed. Lauren became distant, her mood shifting from playful to cold. We were nearing the summit of a particularly steep trail when she stopped abruptly, turning to me with a strange look in her eyes. You always thought you were better than me, didn't you? She asked, her voice sharp. I was taken aback. What are you talking about? Lauren, where is this coming from? She stepped closer, her face contorted with bitterness. Dad always loved you more. You were the perfect daughter, the one who could do no wrong. And now you've got everything. His practice, his reputation, and somehow you still think you're the victim. I stared at her, stunned. Lauren, that's not true. I've always supported you. I've always wanted you to succeed. She laughed bitterly. Don't lie to me, Rachel. I know what you think of me. You're just waiting for me to fail again. Before I could respond, she did something I'll never forget. She lunged at me, shoving me backward. The ground beneath me crumbled and I slipped, tumbling down a rocky slope. My body hit the ground hard, pain radiating through me as I struggled to breathe. When I looked up, Lauren was standing at the edge of the slope, staring down at me. For a moment, I thought she might help me, but then she turned and walked away. I don't remember much after that. I must have passed out, but when I woke up, I was alone. My body ached, blood trickling from a gash on my forehead. Somehow, I managed to drag myself back to the trail and flag down a group of hikers who helped me get to safety. It took weeks to recover physically, but the emotional wounds ran deeper. My own sister had betrayed me, left me for dead, and I couldn't understand why. When I returned to the city, I discovered the truth. Lauren hadn't just taken over the administrative side of our father's practice. She had been using it to run an illegal prescription drug operation. She was forging my signature on prescriptions, selling painkillers to dealers, and pocketing the profits. It was a betrayal of everything our father had stood for, and it made me sick to my stomach. I confronted her, but she denied everything, calling me paranoid and accusing me of trying to sabotage her. When I threatened to go to the authorities, she disappeared. That was the last time I saw her. Until tonight. Now, as I listened to her sobbing on the phone, I felt a mix of emotions: anger, sadness, and a twisted sense of satisfaction. She had finally hit rock bottom. "Rachel, I'm in trouble," she said. "They're after me. I didn't know it would get this bad. Please, I need you." I closed my eyes, taking a deep breath. Part of me wanted to hang up, to let her deal with the mess she had created. But another part of me, the part that still remembered the sister I used to love, couldn't turn away. "Where are you?" I asked, my voice steady. She gave me an address in Queens, and against my better judgment, I went. When I arrived, she was sitting on the steps of a rundown apartment building, her face pale and her hands trembling. She looked up at me with tear-filled eyes. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I didn't know who else to call." As much as I wanted to yell at her, to demand answers, I couldn't bring myself to do it. Instead, I sat down beside her, the weight of our shared history pressing down on me. "We need to fix this," I said, my voice firm. "But you need to tell me everything." Lauren nodded, and for the first time in years, I saw a flicker of the sister I used to know. I didn't know if I could forgive her, but I knew one thing for sure. Blood ties run deep. But the lies between us had to end. The flickering streetlight cast eerie shadows against the crumbling brick walls as I made my way home through the dimly lit streets of Brooklyn. I pulled my coat tighter around me, trying to ward off the chill that seeped into my bones. It was a stark contrast to the warmth of the life I had built as a true crime podcast host, where I unraveled the darkest secrets of humanity for my audience. But tonight, the shadows felt closer than ever, and they reminded me of my sister, Victoria. Victoria had always been the creative one, the artist with a wild spirit. We were inseparable as children, spending endless hours weaving stories and exploring the nooks and crannies of our neighborhood. But as we grew older, our paths diverged. I pursued a career in journalism, while she spiraled deeper into the world of underground art. The last time I saw her, she was shrouded in a web of secrecy, tangled in a life of deceit and manipulation. It had been years since I last spoke to her, but when I received a cryptic message from her, I felt a mix of dread and curiosity. "I need your help. Meet me at the old warehouse," it read. My heart raced. The old warehouse was a relic from our childhood, a place we used to play pretend, but now it echoed with memories of a darker time, when Victoria had fallen into the shadows of the art world and lost herself. As I approached the warehouse, my mind raced with possibilities. What had she gotten herself into this time? I pushed open the creaky door, and the musty air enveloped me. The dim light illuminated the space, revealing scattered canvases and broken furniture. And there she was, standing in the center of the room, a specter of her former self. Her once vibrant hair was dull and unkempt, and her clothes hung loosely on her frame. "Victoria," I said, my voice barely above a whisper. She turned, her eyes wide with a mix of fear and relief. "You came," she breathed. "I didn't know if you would." "Of course I came. But what's going on? You look terrible. What do you need help with?" She took a deep breath, her hands trembling. "I'm in trouble, Rachel. I've gotten involved with the wrong people. There's a collector he doesn't play fair." A sense of dread washed over me as I took a step closer. "What do you mean? What kind of trouble?" Victoria hesitated, her gaze shifting to the floor. I've been selling forged pieces. I thought I could make a name for myself, but it spiraled out of control. Now, this collector wants me to pay him back, or else. Her voice trailed off, and I could see the fear in her eyes. Or else what? I pressed, my heart racing. Or else he'll expose me. He knows everything, Rachel. He knows about the forgeries, about the people I've worked with. I can't go to the police. I'll be arrested. I felt a wave of emotions crash over me. Anger, fear, sadness. This wasn't the sister I remembered. You've put yourself in danger, Victoria. You need to come clean. We can figure this out together. But she shook her head, her expression hardening. I can't. I trust no one. Not anymore. You don't understand what it's like in this world. It's cutthroat. Then let me help you, I urged. I have connections. I can talk to people who might be able to help. No, she snapped, her voice rising. You don't get it. I can't be associated with you. You're a journalist. I can't drag you into my mess. The tension hung heavy in the air, and I felt a familiar pang of frustration. This was the same stubbornness that had driven us apart years ago. Victoria, we're sisters. I've always been here for you, but you have to let me in. She turned away, staring at the shadows dancing on the walls. I don't need your help. I just wanted to see you one last time. You're the only person who ever understood me, and now I've ruined everything. I stepped closer, my heart breaking for her. You haven't ruined everything. We can fix this, but you have to trust me. Please let me help you. Just then, the sound of footsteps echoed from the entrance, and our conversation came to an abrupt halt. A figure emerged from the darkness, a man in a sleek black suit, his face obscured by a shadow. My heart raced in panic as Victoria's face drained of color. It seems like the artist has been busy, he said, his voice smooth but laced with menace. Victoria, you've made quite the impression, but I'm afraid your time is up. I stood frozen as Victoria's eyes darted between me and the intruder. No, please, I'll pay you back. I just need more time. Time is something you don't have, he replied, advancing toward us. You've crossed a line and now you need to face the consequences. Instinct kicked in and I grabbed Victoria's arm, pulling her away from the man. We're leaving, I shouted, adrenaline surging through me. Together, we raced for the back exit, the shadows closing in behind us. I could hear the man's voice rising in anger as we pushed through the door and stumbled into the alleyway. The cool night air filled my lungs as I turned to Victoria, breathless and desperate. You can't do this alone anymore, I said, my voice firm. We're in this together. Whatever it takes, we'll face the shadows side by side. As we fled into the night, I realized that our bond, once strained by betrayal, could be the very thing that saved us. In the depths of darkness, we would find a way to reclaim our lives, one step at a time. The sun dipped below the Manhattan skyline, casting a golden hue across the city as I stared out of my office window. I had built my life around real estate, transforming neglected buildings into luxury apartments. But as I surveyed the bustling streets below, my mind drifted to my sister, Isabella, and the impending family reunion that filled me with dread. Isabella had always been the artistic one in our family, with dreams of becoming a renowned artist. While I pursued a career in real estate, she struggled to find her footing, bouncing from one failed project to another. I had supported her through thick and thin, offering financial help whenever I could. But the more I tried to assist, the more I felt the weight of her resentment. Our relationship had grown strained, and after a particularly heated argument over our grandmother's estate, we hadn't spoken in months. The estate was a sprawling old mansion on the outskirts of the city, a relic of our family's past. Our grandmother had left it to both of us, but the property held a deeper significance, tied to our childhood memories. Long summer days spent playing in the gardens, exploring the hidden nooks of the house, and listening to our grandmother's stories. Now, it was a battleground, a source of contention that threatened to tear us apart. When I received the invitation to the family meeting at the mansion, I hesitated. Did I really want to face Isabella again? But deep down, I knew I had to confront our issues. We needed to settle the estate and, hopefully, find a way to mend our broken bond. As I drove to the mansion, memories flooded back. I recalled the laughter we shared, the secrets we confided in each other, and the dreams we once nurtured together. But those memories were overshadowed by the bitterness that had grown between us. The mansion loomed ahead, its grandeur a stark reminder of the love and resentment intertwined in our family history. Inside the mansion, Isabella was already there, pacing the grand living room, her expression tense. She looked up as I entered, and for a moment we simply stared at each other, the air thick with unspoken words. "Rachel," she said, her voice tight. "I didn't think you'd actually show up." "I had to, didn't I? We need to talk about the estate," I replied, trying to keep my tone neutral. "Talk? Or argue about who deserves what?" She shot back, crossing her arms defensively. I took a deep breath, trying to maintain my composure. "This isn't just about the money, Isabella. It's about our family legacy. It's about our grandmother." She scoffed, her frustration bubbling to the surface. "You mean your legacy? You've always been the one in control, always making the decisions. I'm tired of being the one left out." I felt a pang of guilt. Had I really overshadowed her? "I've tried to help you, Isabella. I've supported your art. I thought you understood that." "Support? You mean control. You've always been the responsible one, and I'm just the screw-up in your eyes." The anger in her voice struck a chord, and I felt my defenses rise. "You don't get to blame me for your choices. I've worked hard for everything I have, and I thought you could do the same." Her eyes narrowed, and I could see the hurt beneath her anger. "You think it's that simple? You don't know what it's like to struggle, to feel like you're never enough. You've never had to fight for anything." The tension between us crackled like static electricity. I wanted to scream, to lash out, but instead I took a step back, trying to calm my racing heart. "What do you want, Isabella? What do you really want?" She paused, her expression shifting from anger to vulnerability, and for a moment I felt a glimmer of hope. "I want to be respected, to be seen as more than just your sister," she admitted, her voice trembling. "I respect you. I always have," I said softly, my heart aching for the sister I used to know. "But you have to meet me halfway. We can't keep tearing each other down." Isabella's shoulders slumped and she looked away, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. "I don't know how to fix this, Rachel." "Then let's start by working together. We can restore this mansion, turn it into something beautiful, something that honors Grandma's memory. If we do this together, we can both have a piece of it." She hesitated, weighing my words. "You really think we can do that?" "I believe we can. But it'll take effort from both of us. No more secrets, no more lies. Just honesty." The silence stretched between us, heavy with the weight of our shared history. Finally, Isabella nodded, a flicker of determination in her eyes. "Okay, let's try." We both knew the road ahead wouldn't be easy. The shadows of the past still loomed large, but for the first time in a long while, I felt a spark of hope. The price of sisterhood had always been high, but perhaps together we could pay it off, piece by piece, and restore not just the mansion, but our bond as sisters. Thanks for joining me on this journey of betrayal and redemption. If you want to hear more true stories of family drama and justice served, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell. Share this video with someone who appreciates a good revenge story, and leave a comment below sharing your thoughts on family loyalty. Remember to like this video if you enjoyed it, and stay tuned for more compelling stories every week.